So here it is, all painted up. So the paint job in total, I think, was like 80 bucks. And the color, the shade of the color turned out perfect. That's the most important part. The shade is exactly where I want it to be. Welcome back, guys. Today on this episode, we are going to paint the Roadster. So, hold up a second. I am going to brush paint this. I'm going to mix up a color that I like and just brush paint it for Trog. So, being completely honest and completely clear about my build in this car, this needs a lot of body work still. I didn't do any of the body work to the car that's on it right now, and the body work that I have found on it while working on it is terrible. This whole car does need to go all the way down to bare steel. Eventually, first things first, I have to fix the wheel wells. I don't think they're even welded in. They look like they're completely seam sealed in. No go, not cool, not okay. But when we go to Trog and we race at Trog, there's going to be thousands and thousands of photos taken, drag racing, in motion down the beach. And I don't want my photos in time to be this car, all patchy, nasty body work and, you know, primer. I don't want it to look like that in my pictures going down the beach in the race. So I want to paint it, get it one solid color. Then when I'm not brushing up until Trog, when I have more time throughout the year, I'll start fixing things that need to be fixed. The fender wells, some of the doors, stuff like that. Also, eventually I have a 32 firewall I'm going to put on my Roadster. The whole idea is this has been a cheap man's version of a 32 Roadster. That's why I have the grill, a couple of other things, and I'm trying to make it look like a 32. So that being said, I'm going to do a decent job at actually putting the paint on. I am going to start with degreasing the body, isopropyl alcohol, do the whole thing, scrubbing it down, getting it ready, prepped for paint. Then I'm going to mix up a couple colors that I have laying around and brush it on. I think it'll turn out decently. It's not going to be a beautiful show car, but that being said, it's still my jalopy, and I just don't want to look at primer anymore. And I fully understand that all the paint's going to have to come off anyways. So a $60 paint job is not really going to be a big deal to grind off later on. At least I'll get it one color and enjoy the pictures at Trog. So let's get started with degreasing this thing and maybe taping one or two things off. Look how much grease I'm getting up off of this body. That is pretty bad. Isopropyl alcohol, a little scrubber. It'll get me mostly there. All right, so since I'm getting ready to paint the car and I'm not worried about overspray, I can overspray everything here that I want since I'm getting ready to paint it. I'm gonna go ahead and paint my roll bar. I need to get it sealed so it doesn't rust. This roll bar is legitimate. It's where it's going to be forever. So I'm gonna paint it for real, get some good paint on this thing. So I like to be open and honest about everything I do on my channel. So the paint that I'm using for this is the Farm and Implement paint, Rust-Oleum, right? Rust-Oleum. I have two colors here. I have Ford Blue, which is way too blue for me. I don't like it being that blue. Then I have low gloss black. So for me, I don't like high gloss on traditional hot rods. It's just a personal thing, because the old lacquer paints, if anyone's seen like an unrestored 39 Ford, stuff like that, they're not super glossy like today's cars. So I try to find low gloss. I couldn't find low gloss in the blue, but since this is too bright and I want to darken it up, I'm going to mix it in my spare can here and mix it until I like the color pretty much. So I'm going to dump all the blue and I'm going to slowly dump black in there until I figure out what color I like. Then when I'm done with that, I'll have as much paint as I have for it. In this can, I'll be able to seal it and use it for touch-up paint. But like I said, this is not my forever paint job. This is just for now until I have the time to do the body work. In the next 2-3 weeks before Trog, I don't have the time. So we'll use all the blue because I don't care about saving any of this. This is all cheap paint from a local hardware store. So let's get all the blue in there. I'm just gonna cut to the chase, give it a good amount of black right off the bat. It's gonna take quite a bit to darken this down. Wow, I came pretty close on that first pour to what I want. That's really close to my rim color. I like that. I want it to be like my rim color. Now I was just getting ready to paint this outside when I noticed that the car got a little dusty and there's a lot of pollen outside. A lot of pine needles and stuff falling down. And even though this is a low budget rod, I'm not going to do a shit job at it. At least want to try to do a good job. So let's see how this starts to look on the car. So here it is after the first coat. A little too bright blue for me. It's a cool looking color. And obviously we gotta do more than one coat because you can see the brush strokes. So second coat, all that kind of stuff will start going away. And really, you could wet sand this if you wanted to because it's thick enough, but that's not the look we're going for. I want brushed on look similar to my rims. See how much darker my rims are? So On the second coat, I'm gonna add quite a bit more black to it. Okay, so we're gonna add some more black to our color. Hopefully darken it up a little bit more than what we have. It's not too far off though, honestly. If you guys open up your own paint cans at home and you don't already know about this, wrap them in saran wrap. It helps them stay sealed better for longer. Something I've always done. Some guys put saran wrap on the inside before they put the lid down. That works too. It's kind of the same idea. Just trapping all the air so it can't breathe. And it's worked with me for you know, stuff that's set on the shelf for years and still was good paint, so try it out. Very dark. It looks really dark on the stick. We're just gonna go with that and expect it to lighten up when it gets dried. Now I want to show you guys something that gets overlooked now because all we see on TV and everything are these $20,000 to $30,000 paint jobs. This is a quick and easy type job. Aluminum foil covers really easily, really well, and if you wrap it right, it stays in place. If you're brushing or if you're spraying, the problem with things that you wrap off while you're painting vehicles is when you're spraying a single coat, you're letting that dry, and you come to spray the second coat, certain materials, when you go to spray, your old paint will flake off and fly into your new paint job, which is terrible situation. Aluminum foil is very cheap, it curves really good, and whatever I spray onto this also sticks to the aluminum foil as well. So if I were to spray another coat, let's say a clear coat the next day, my base coat is not going to flake off into my paint. It's going to stay on here. The only things you got to worry about are like flake jobs, dry flake. If you're dry flaking, you already know the deal. So keep in mind with that if you're dry flaking. But cheap, affordable paint jobs. A lot of guys use newspaper. Some guys use aluminum foil, and some guys use both, which is fine. Just so you know, that's an option, and that's what I'm doing for this brush on paints job, which obviously is not as important. I just don't want black paint all over my motor. And I'm going to replace this intake on the next video. So I will paint behind the intake once the intake's off. It'll just be easier to get to. So I'm gonna brush this up and get this car finished. So here it is, all painted up. Is there some runs? Yes. Is there some paint strokes? Yes. I had to put it on pretty thick to get it glossy. When I didn't put it on thick, you could see through it down to the other color. So it just is what it is. Yes, I do plan on grinding it all off eventually and actually fixing the bodywork on it. So the paint job in total, I think, was like 80 bucks. So I mean, for 80 bucks, no prep time really, other than just cleaning it, degreasing it. Not a whole bunch of masking off, not a bunch of fans and filters inside my garage. It turned out pretty good, honestly. It's semi-glossy. It's right at the gloss point that I want it to be, not be too glossy, not too many brush strokes, not too many runs. It's right in the middle. I think it's good enough for the, it's definitely good enough for the price. And when I'm drag racing down the beach in Trog, the motion pictures will look a lot cooler than a primered car. And the color, the shade of the color turned out perfect. That's the most important part. The shade is exactly where I want it to be, and makes it feel like it's an actual car for once. I've had this for a little while, and this is the first time that I felt like this was a real car. So I'm happy with it. Cheap, fast, easy, looks pretty decent. Thank you for watching, guys. See you next time.